Hey, Mystic Michaela spiritual family. Welcome to Know Your Aura with Mystic Michaela. Today, how does spirit get your attention? I'm talking about people on the other side who've passed and your own angel spirit guides. How do they try to get you to pay attention to what they are telling you? Well, first, hey, Scotty.
Hey, guys.
All right. So I always say when someone you love passes, you become the medium. And so keep that in mind today when we talk about ways spirit and those on the other side attempt to get your attention, because they're going to do it in ways that make sense to you and the relationship you had with them too.
All right. Well, I have a question for you.
Yes.
All right. So I was at the gym the other day.
Okay.
Lifting very, very, very heavy weights.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of weight. All kind of presses.
Get the visual, you guys.
Yeah.
He's strong.
Right. And I was doing some seated shoulder presses.
Okay.
With very heavy weight. And I just happened to look down.
Right.
And there was a feather on my shirt.
Yes.
I'm like, okay, I'm like, And
right.
Of course, I know one of the signs that a lot of people talk about, and I've heard you talk about in the past, is feathers. Feathers being a sign from the other side.
Yeah.
So, I'm like, all right, let me play along here.
Yeah, you had to break through the group of people that were surrounding you because they were watching you lift such heavy weights.
Correct. And, they were applauding me and telling me how wonderful I was. Right?
Yes.
My groupies. And so I take the feather and you're on the treadmill.
And you're like, excuse me, everyone.
Right. And you're on the treadmill.
Yes.
And I bring it over to you. Yeah, and again, I'm just kind of, doing this as kind of like a goof. And I get all excited about having the feather. Like, oh, look, it's a sign. It's a sign.
Right.
And I show it to you, this feather. And I forgot I think you said, yeah, you got all excited, actually.
Yeah.
I remember, you were like really excited. You thought it was a sign.
Right.
So here's my question.
Right.
Feathers, a bird flies by.
Right.
I see a few pennies on the floor. A pencil eraser shows up on my desk. I don't know. Are these signs from the other side?
Right.
Or is it just happened to be that there was a feather on my shirt?
Or are we just seeing things because we've trained our brain to look for them?
Correct.
Like numbers or symbols or words or whatnot.
Right. That's my question.
Okay.
What's your
Yeah,
what's your
and
take?
I appreciate that because I think that's the, skeptic Scotty is always appreciated. And I think that's the invasive thought that can happen. And it's something that can damper your excitement when you feel like you've seen a sign. My thing is, why can't two things be true?
Okay.
Why can't two things be true? Why can't it be that you maybe do notice things more? And why can't it be that those are also from the other side? To me, it's not one or the other. It's both. And the more you pay attention to things, like, oh, a feather or a coin or a number, or I saw my dad's name who passed on a billboard, that must be a sign, the more you notice these things and just take a second and be like, maybe it was my brain, but maybe it was also them trying to connect with me. You open yourself up to more and more and more messages. And even if you don't want to believe in any of this going any further than this lifetime, let's say we're talking to a true skeptic here, right? My answer would be like, okay, then let yourself just feel positive about it. Let it be a reminder in the 3D to just stay open and keep your eyes open and pay attention. That would be my answer to that. But I do feel the more we pay attention, the more we receive from the other side. Our attention is what allows them to talk to us.
Yeah, okay. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, and I'll go back to the feather on my shirt. When I actually first saw the feather on my shirt, I did for a second get excited.
That's spirit.
And then I'm like, as I'm bringing you over to you, I'm more like kind of joking about it.
That's ego.
Okay. Then when I finally show it to you and you tell me, then I'm just kind of like, okay.
The ego took over. Right.
Ego took over.
Yeah.
And then I'm like wondering, well, what even sign would it be? Like why would spirit put a feather on the side of my shirt? I don't even. Spirit
is the loudest voice. No, correction. I apologize. This is totally messed that up. Spirit's the first voice. Okay. Ego is the loudest voice.
Right.
Ego is not the first voice, but ego is the loudest voice. The first time you see something, if you can go back to that first moment where you encountered a sign and you felt like, wow, like a connection or excitement, that's real. then the thing that comes in, the voice, and says, not real, nothing, no big deal, and brings in all the logic, that's ego, which just is your, mind's way of keeping you down to earth. Fine. So I always say that to people first. But what's crazy is that day you were talking about, we had this huge, it was right before 8/8. It was 8/7, actually. And we had been having really formative conversations before the August 8th portal. Like, you and I were really talking, and we were really connecting, and we were really like digging deep. And we even felt it. You were even like, okay, these are really good conversations. And we were feeling like, there's a change or a buzz or something. We hit something.
Right.
And then that morning on the way to the gym, we were having a really deep conversation talking about, hey, like, what are we scared of and what do we have to let go? Like, I remember it very strongly because it was such a really important conversation that we had. Yeah. And you parked the car and we're like, wow, yeah, that's good. Like, it's just fear. Who cares? We can't let it stop us or whatever. And then you found the feather. And I was like, oh, there it is. It's just kind of spirit. In this case, to me, I felt, but it was your feather. So you tell me what you felt. I felt it was spirit's little underline. Like when you're writing something down and you underline it if it's really important. I feel like they were just putting an underline under our conversation or our energy that day. Like, yep, that. Good job. Here's a feather. That's what and white feathers, I feel like, are one of those things that can mean different things based on the circumstances it comes to you. But overall, they mean protection. Like, we got you. You're good. And kind of like, we're here. Presence.
All right. Well, I guess I'll take it as it was a sign.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, and I think I've already mentioned this on the day after 8/8, I got the bill. I went to the coffee shop. I think I mentioned it in the podcast. Sorry.
Yeah.
And my bill was 888.
Right.
When we were doing something.
Yeah.
So I was like, whoa. So, I mean, that one I really believed.
And that was another sign you got.
Yeah.
So and then you really did believe that one.
Yeah. So it was like 2 and 3 days.
But then we were joking you were joking with me on the way home.
Right.
After you got the bill for $888. And you're like, what if they make all their menu items angel numbers on purpose just to drudge up, customers?
Exactly. Like, that's what I would do.
And then you're like, that's what I would do.
Like a coffee and a donut, 777.
Yeah, like you had it like, you're like, what if this is all on purpose? That's the ego coming in.
Croissant in my coffee.
Which I thought was so funny.
Yeah, I always go to the bagel store and I always get $12.22.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then I actually said the price today because I was getting bagels this morning. I said the price beforehand.
Yeah.
And the lady's like, oh, you know the number. I'm like, of course I know that number. It's 222.
Right.
And she's like, that is a good number.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean,
that's funny.
I don't know. Maybe
but why did you choose the coffee shop that, even if they did do that, right? Like they price matched it to angel numbers. Like, why'd you choose that coffee shop on that day? You know what I mean? I think that's pretty cool.
That's true. That's a fair point.
Hello, podcast fans. If you're looking for a new podcast, if you enjoy articles, books, pop culture, and hilarity, try listening to the Brain Candy Podcast.
That's right. The Brain Candy Podcast has over 500 episodes of educational hilarity to satiate your learning needs. Just search for the Brain Candy Podcast on your podcast app or click the link in the show notes.
Well, one sign that I have been noticing is in the Mystic Michaela spiritual family. There's been so many posts about people that have questions about signs.
Yes.
Whether, like you said, it be a feather or a coin or bird. And they want to know the same kind of thing that I want to know.
Right.
Is this a sign or is it just a bird flying in my house?
Right. Or is it a bad omen?
Or whatnot. All right. So look, we took a few of these and I'll read the first one. This one is from Ashley S. And she writes... I lost it.
She writes. Want me to do it for you?
No, I got it.
All right.
I'm all about spirit signs. Yesterday, I had a bird fly in my house. Despite what my cats would have liked, I got him out safely. What does a bird flying in the house mean? Curious what others have heard. So a bird flying in the house.
And a lot of the comments were like, oh, it means death, or oh, it means this, or oh, it means that. And this is, you could go down a rabbit hole with this. And this is something that in like cross-culturally and throughout history, people are really freaked out about having birds in the house. So anyways, to me, it means change. It means straight up, pivotal, groundbreaking, shifting change. Change for our ego selves, our human self feels negative. So a lot of these signs get kind of hooked up with negative omens, because I feel like that's an ego, that's a 3D way that our human selves have tried to make sense of it, because we don't like change. Change feels scary. We like doing the same thing, even if it's not good for us. We like doing the same thing over and over and over again because it's predictable. That's what feels safe to us. So when something like a sign like this happens and it means change, I can see why throughout time people have just been like, it's a bad omen, a bird in the house. But it really just means change. And change in the 5D is very neutral. There's no such thing as good or bad. So change could be like, you lose your job, or change could be you're getting money coming in, or change is whatever you want to look at it, just change in their perspective, on the spirit side perspective. But yeah, bird in the house means change. And, yeah. And also I think people get nervous. Like, what if a bird's flying into my window, or a bird flew into my door, a bird flew into my door and died? That people get very stressed out about that. And again, I would say change, things coming your way. When it flies into listen, I'm big too on bird safety. I just have to put this out there. Like, right. You might want to put something on your window so the birds aren't confusing it, because they might just be like flying into your window because it's so clean, or they, it's in a bad spot, of course. Like, right. And I'm real big on that. Like, put something on your window. But if it was happening, you can also start thinking, okay, what are my obstacles to change? Like, what am I not letting happen that should? Like, what am I not letting evolve that should? That's how I would take that. And then you can even go more down the rabbit hole and what type of bird it is, and then symbolism. And I always say take these things with a grain of salt too. You don't want to get scary about it with yourself. The second it starts making you anxious or nervous or stressed out or obsessive, it's not for you. That's not spirit. Spirit, and the way it's supposed to be taken in, is curious, interested, insightful. Like that unlocked something in me. Okay, that felt good. If it doesn't feel good, don't do it. But you could go down with bird symbolism too. Okay.
Now, we've never had a bird come into the house, but we've had many lizards. We do live in South Florida.
That is Florida.
So that's just Florida.
I like that's
so
Florida.
Lizard in the house, no big deal.
That's Florida. Okay. That's Florida.
All right, next one.
Okay. So the next one was given to us from Amanda A. And right here, possible trigger warning, miscarriage. Okay. But it's a really beautiful story. In June, I had a second trimester miscarriage. It was pretty devastating. I never thought I would get signs from my baby. I guess it didn't even occur to me. This morning, I was making breakfast for my family when I noticed a light on the wall beside the stove. Immediately, I tried to figure out where it was coming from. I realized it was the sun shining off the necklace I wear with my lost baby's name on it. I remember MM saying we should acknowledge the signs so that we can see them more often. I never get the opportunity to say my baby's name aloud, but I did in that moment. To top it off, I remember MM saying our babies that have come to her come as sparkles, and that's exactly what it looked like on my wall. Even though it was just the light reflecting off his necklace, I felt that was his way of giving me a sign. I hope to see more signs from my baby. That made me just, want to hug you, Amanda. I think that that's a beautiful balance of what we're talking about here. That was the light refracting off the necklace. Sure. It absolutely was. But why can't it also be a sign for my baby? Why can't it also be that? Because I'm going to tell you, and I've said this before, on the other side, they put a lot of effort. It takes a lot of energy to come through. And I don't know the rules of it, and I don't know the physics of it, but I do know that. And it's kind of like, do you ever try to talk to somebody and they were really closed off to you and it took like a lot of energy to get them to open up? You don't want to be like that to somebody who's trying to connect you on the other side, because that's what it feels like. So you just want to be open. Just like, hi, baby. Hey. That's why I'm saying anytime you see a sign, just be like, okay, great, cool. I see you. Thank you. I received that. That's all you got to do, because it just makes it easier to let them in and to let it keep happening too. But I thought that was a beautiful story of just both feelings existing and coexisting at the same time.
Yeah, definitely. All right, the next one comes from Anna N. And She writes, hello, Mr. Michaela, spiritual family. I thought this group would appreciate this. My dad recently passed, And while we knew it was coming, it had been so hard to accept. While he was very ill, I asked him to come visit me from the other side through numbers. He didn't seem to understand, but nodded. Okay. Well, his official time of death was 1/17. My birth date is 11/7.
Wow.
Same
numbers,
Same
yeah.
numbers, yeah. As soon as she said the time of death, I got goosebumps and felt his presence so strongly. I'd like to think that was one of his first hellos from the other side.
Wow. That's really, really special. And I love that she had asked him to come through numbers.
Through a number.
And then the moment he died, she felt the goosebumps too. She got the numbers and felt the goosebumps and felt his presence. That's what I mean. Like right there, that whoosh of energy, like, oh, it's him. Like, trust that first, and I just think that that's so, her dad was able, and I think what's the most beautiful thing is that she received that message from her father.
Right.
Like she didn't brush it off. She wasn't like, oh, just a coincidence, like she actually received it. And that just makes me just feel really overwhelmed with emotion because her dad, the gratitude from her father, like, thank you for receiving that. Thank you for, that. That must have been really powerful for him too, to have his daughter receive that. And I think that that's just really special.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, yeah. I mean, I believe it. I believe it.
You believe it? Yeah. I believe it too.
I believe it.
Yeah, obviously I believe it because I'm here. Yeah, I just think two things can be true,
Yeah.
But I'm gonna come back after this little break, and I'm gonna talk about some stories I've had in recent mediumship readings that talk about how people on the other side try to get your attention. I'm a mom, and as a parent, I don't need to tell you how busy you are. Our next partner makes mealtime with my kids so much easier and more enjoyable. This podcast is sponsored by Nurture Life. Nurture Life is a meal delivery service focused on helping busy parents easily feed their babies and kids from 10 months old to 10 years old. The company provides fresh meals and snacks that are delicious, nutritious, and fully cooked. That means they are ready to serve in just 1 minute. Nurture Life lets kids enjoy a healthy, nutritionally balanced diet while still eating all of their favorites like mac and cheese, spaghetti and meatballs, and much more, so parents can be sure there's always something on the menu that their little ones will love. What sets Nurture Life apart from other meal delivery services? Without a doubt, it's how amazing they taste and how healthy they are. It's because their meals are made fresh every week. Seriously, they're never frozen and shipped directly to your door. My 2 kids love them. And I was even sneaking in bites with every meal. I'm an Odie's girl. Okay. That's why Nurture Life is the top meal delivery service for babies and kids. And it's even allergy friendly too. My kids just loved their last meal. They had the chicken and mac. So it's chicken nuggets and mac and cheese and hidden squash and peas. And they ate it up. They loved it. So how does Nurture Life work? It's simple. You select from over 50 varieties of nutritious, balanced meals on their weekly menu, from finger foods for babies and toddlers to kids' meals. For older kids, the Nurture Life does the cooking for you, and the fresh meals are delivered straight to your door in refrigerated packing. Honestly, using Nurture Life makes it so much less stressful and anxiety-producing feeding my kiddos. I don't have to scramble making healthy meals for them, worry about if they're liking them. I can feed them different things when they want different things. And I'll be honest, I have a 9-year-old and a 15-year-old, and they both loved it. They both absolutely loved it. And I was eating the Odie's, which is so good. You have to try it to understand how good this is. Very filling. It's about time that a flexible meal subscription existed for babies and kids. So head to nurturelife.com and use code KYA for 55% off your first order. That's right, 55% off. Once again, that's nurturelife.com for 55% off. And make sure you use my promo code KYA so they know I sent you. I wanted to talk about how spirit gets our attention. And I wanted to include a few stories from readings I've done recently. So let's start with spirit getting our attention with jewelry. I was reading a woman and she gave me a picture of her grandparents. So it was an old picture. And the grandpa had passed and I was really connecting to his energy. And I'm an empathic medium, so I get their the way that I channel, and if you've been around here, you've heard me say this before, but emotions and feelings and personality, and just how they feel about you too. So it's really beautiful. And sometimes it's hard because I get to feel how they feel about you. And it's such a beautiful thing. It's really a gift to me. And I try really hard to explain this to who I'm doing the reading for, because you know how they feel about you, but at the same time, it's like, oh, that pure feeling in the moment of it is just such a gift. Well, anyways, I'm reading this picture of her grandfather and I'm really connecting to him. And one of the things he shows me is he's pointing down. Oh, side note. Sometimes when I do readings and I'm looking at a picture, now I use pictures to channel. That's how I specifically work. All mediums have their own touchstones or the way they do things. Mine is pictures. But this is something that some of you might relate to. So, crazy psychic lady moment, sometimes pictures move when I'm reading them. Like they literally start moving and talking. And the closest way I could explain it to you is, in Harry Potter, when the pictures move, and those are like the magical pictures. Sometimes that happens during a reading. It's super normal to me. When I first started realizing that I could kind of tap into this, it was freaky, but now I realize it's just normal. Back to what I was saying. So the grandpa in the picture is pointing down at his wife's finger, and he's pointing down at her ring finger. And it's the ring finger on her right hand. So I said to, my client, I'm like, hey, he's pointing at your grandmother's ring finger, but on her right hand. And he kept showing me this. Does this make sense? And she said, oh, her grandmother, who was still alive, had just given her daughter, which is my client's mom, a special ring. It was her right hand on her ring finger, her special lady's diamond, she called it. So it's her special, ring finger ring for her right hand. And she had just given it to her daughter with the intention that eventually it's passed down to her granddaughter, which is who I'm reading. And I feel like the thing with jewelry is, because this is something that comes up a lot in readings, is it matters. It really does. Sometimes I feel like because it's a conduit, and I feel like it's something that, maybe you're not sure if you get sentimental about a piece or something. There's a reason for that. And it sometimes if you're like, there's really something I wanted and I wasn't able to get that from the person that passed, or, there's always like a mess with families. Like if you can't get something from somebody or somebody claimed it and it's not yours anymore, if you feel like you're mourning that, it's not you being selfish and it's not you being like greedy or whatever. You're really mourning the connection of that person to the jewelry. So I just want to give you an understanding of how that works. So my next one is another one about jewelry, but it's a little different. So I was reading my client, and she was a new client, and it happened to be, which happens sometimes, the reading happened to be scheduled on her late mother's birthday, which was kind of, serendipitous. And she definitely took that as a sign. And I would say dates and significant dates or numbers like that, always signs, and just consider them as such. So it was really cool that just happened to work out that the day she got the reading was her late mom's birthday. Well, anyways, I'm looking at the mom's picture and I'm connecting to the mom's energy. And the mom on the other side, because again, like you don't really lose your personality when you die. Dead people are just people. And she kind of mutters something. And this is in the reading. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, so the daughter said, I just want to connect with her. Then any signs, what are the signs here? And I never know what I'm going to get, because honestly, it's like talking to a person. It's like whatever they want to give me. But the mom on the other side, I heard her muttering, and she kept muttering. And finally, I kind of was like, okay, this doesn't make sense, but I'll just tell you. She's saying white butterflies, but it's so stupid. That's what I heard her say. And I'm like, whatever, that makes no sense, but maybe it makes sense to you. And the woman thought that was like hysterical. And I will tell you why. Because the mom had, and it's my client's now, so, her daughter has it in her possession, a necklace of her mother's, and it's white butterflies. But but it's so stupid part, okay? The butterflies were made out of ivory. And if you don't know what ivory is made from the tusks of elephants, and it's like completely illegal now, but it didn't used to be. And her mom was older, okay? And in that generation, for some weird reason, they did not connect that to poaching. And I don't know, honestly, that is just something that is the older generations, like my grandma too, had ivory stuff. And then you like click it together. You're like, oh my God, like, do you understand what that means? Like, an elephant died for this, anyways. Hence but it's so stupid part, because the mom on the other side had connected that it's so dumb. And her daughter said to me, she's saying it's so stupid because she actually loved elephants. They were her favorite animal. She had elephant stuff all over, and she thought it was cool to have a necklace made out of ivory. Like, she didn't connect it, but on the other side she sure did, because she said, well, white butterflies, but it's so stupid. That's kind of what she was saying. And the way she said it to me in the reading was kind of like somebody be like kicking the dirt, like, oh, well, sorry, oh, so stupid, like that. And it definitely gave my client that feeling of, oh gosh, because she still had it, and she, it's like that shameful necklace in everyone's possession, but it became a way for mom to connect to her daughter. So I thought that was really a cool message. And also really shows, and I see this a lot, the insight that happens on the other side. All of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, whoa, that revelation of, oh, I didn't put that together. She didn't know. And that I see that all the time on the other side, which for me has been a huge lesson. I do these readings and I get my own lessons when I do them. Obviously, like, I'm sitting here and I call myself the phone. When I do mediumship readings, I'm the phone. You pick it up and you just use me as the vessel to communicate with somebody on the other side. And just like the phone, I don't control the message. I'm just like relaying it. But as I'm sitting there relaying it, I get floored by this stuff. And that's why I've been doing these episodes. Like, I try to do these episodes every so often so that I can share with you all these amazing things that I've learned. And one of the things that I've learned is that if you don't learn it now, you're going to have to learn it over there. And you really have kick yourself moments on the other side. This happens to me all the time when I'm doing readings. I'll just notice these people have like kicked themselves moment. Like, oh my gosh, I thought a big one is health. I thought I was putting everyone out by, needing to go see the doctor, being on top of my health or taking care of my health. I thought it was selfish to be careful with my body or selfish to get things checked out. When in actuality, on the other side, they realized, oh my gosh, everybody was constantly worrying about me. And actually, that was really, really selfish of me not to be the one checking myself out, because that made everyone else feel responsible or guilty or stressed out about it. That's like just one of many, many little aha moments that can happen on the other side. But what I've learned is for myself, I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I not realizing here? What's the thing that I'm not making a connection to? Like, what's the thing that on the other side, I'm going to be like, oh gosh, it's just something to think about. Okay. So, this was really cool. This is kind of an example of, I would say this more spirit related. So you have dead people on the other side, and then you also have angels or your spirit team or your spirit guides, your high vibrational energy that surrounds you. I had a reading, and the woman was a mom of a child. She had 2 kids, but one of the kids had a lot of medical challenges. And it was towards the end of the reading. And the theme of the whole reading, in a nutshell, was kind of like, hey, you can make a different story for yourself. Because she was very sick of being stuck in this rut with work, especially when her kids needed so much. But she was afraid of, looking elsewhere for a different type of job, because she had it in her mind, well, that means that I won't have the flexibility that this job gives me, or I won't be able to be the mom that I need to be, especially with a kid that has a lot of needs. And, the big theme of the reading was like, let something else unfold. Like stop writing the story for us so we can come in with kind of a surprise ending or a twist, or just have faith that if you leave some room open, kind of hey, okay, you guys take it from here. Or what if it does work out? Or what if I find a job that's even better? Or, like that. So that spirit can come in and work their magic and put things in your path you never would have been able to even think of. So basically the whole thing was like, stop writing these stories for yourself. Like, let us in to help. So that was the theme of the whole reading. But anyways, it was the end of the reading, and she starts to tell me, she's like, there was this one opportunity. All of a sudden, as soon as she says that, all the lights, now I do my readings in my upstairs office, okay? And I have bedrooms up here and all sorts of stuff. But I'm in the office with the door shut. And all of a sudden, the electricity just surges super bright and then turns completely off. So I'm on a landline, so my phone dies, and my computer with all her pictures on it completely gets turned off, and my printer turns off, and the lights turn off, and the fan turns off. Like, all the electricity went out, and then of course the Wi-Fi went out too. So I'm like, and then it turns back on, and I look, because the reading's not over. I mean, it was done, but like, I'm not going to leave it like that. So I'm getting my cell phone out and using, my wireless connection to text her. Call me back. Call me at this number, working it out. And I look around the house. Nothing else in my entire house turned off. The electric clock in the bedroom right next door is fine. Nothing else turned off. And I even went to see the report later. You know how you can go on your, I don't know, we can here, the FLP, Florida Light, I don't even know what it is. The electric company has you, were there any outages? Nothing. No, nothing reported. Of course, because spirit was saying, this is important. This is important. Pay attention. Sometimes spirit wants you to pay attention, and they'll do it, and it will look like an inconvenience, but it's really them being like, now pay attention. So we reconnected, and I'm like, okay, but this opportunity, whatever it is important. And spirit's obviously like, pay attention. And she's like, yeah, obviously. Like, she was totally like, okay, this is serious. Like, she felt it too. And the opportunity that was presented for her was for her son to be featured as the special representative for this year for the particular medical challenge that he has. And for her to be a speaker at an upcoming event for this condition. And that is like, whoa, okay. And it's kind of got thrown at her, and it's kind of new, and it's kind of exciting, and it's kind of a big deal is what they're saying. So I definitely thought that was really cool. And it definitely stood out to me because spirit messed with my house electricity to do it. Okay. Another way that spirit can kind of come in and get your attention is through health stuff. So let me tell you this one. This one's a little different. All right. So a woman I was reading, she sent all these pictures, and she sent, pictures of her house, which isn't, a lot of people do that. And I saw a woman standing. Oh, this is what it was. She had a picture of her in a room in the house. Okay. So it was like a selfie she took for me in her house. But I literally saw a blonde woman standing behind her who wasn't there. I knew she was a ghost. Like, I knew she was haunting this house. If you're new here, ghosts aren't a bad thing. They're kind of like roommates. I feel like in most cases, not all cases, but in most cases, if you have somebody haunting your house, there's a choice that they're making to stay there for whatever reason. That's just my personal thought about it. For whatever reason, they're just staying there. Anyways, I described, and the stairs felt very bad. The stairs felt very bad in this picture. There were stairs in the photo, and the stairs didn't feel good to me. So I didn't know anything, and I just said all this stuff. I described her, and I also got this feeling that this woman who was in the house was healing her own soul. The dead ghost lady was healing her own soul, her own self, through watching this woman who I was reading raise her kids in this house. And I got this huge message: my kids were taken from me. Ooh, I'm getting chills as I tell you all this because I'm like reliving it. And she felt really lonely, and she was really like pro-woman, kind of like, you never let a man tell you what to do, or like that kind of feeling, like very like, you speak up for yourself, like somebody who's been through something. She definitely felt like she had been hurt. Okay, so I told, this all just came out. I was like, blah, 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 blah to the lady. And totally like, hoping this person doesn't think I'm some crazy psychic lady who now doesn't want to go back into her house. Because, I never want to freak you out. But nope, my client, she's like, oh yeah, I know exactly who that is. This woman's haunting my house. And she actually did the research already. And apparently a woman who had lived there died prematurely by falling down the stairs and had left young children. So she died when her kids were young by falling down the stairs in this house. And I think the big question, so two things here, and there's more to it, but two things right here. One, did she fall or did someone push her? Okay, because that's the vibe I was getting, that this was something that wasn't an accident. And that's the vibe the woman I was reading has had too. Like, I don't know if it was an accident, because she was very like lonely, and it just, all roads led to, did your husband push you down the stairs? Like, that's what it led to. It was not anything that was found in any report she found. It was just, she died by accident down the stairs. Okay. Second thing I got that I thought was interesting from this is the way that she came through to me. She said, my kids were taken from me, is what she described it as. But then this is really sad, because I'm a mom, and a lot of you listening are moms. So it's kind of like, ugh. Her crossing over felt like her kids were taken from her. Like the kids would, from our point of view, being in the physical realm, it's like my mom was taken from me. The way she was seeing it from her perspective is my kids were taken from me. I thought that was really sad. Anyways, continuing on with the story. And this is how spirit gets your attention, okay? When the woman I was reading, my client, when she was pregnant with her first child, she felt very affected during pregnancy. Just extremely depressed, paranoid, upset, anxious, nervous. And I think when you are pregnant, and a lot of you who've been pregnant can probably relate to this, sometimes you got a lot of feelings and you're like, is this me? Is this hormonal? Is this like, why am I going crazy? Can actually be, I guess, just part of it for some of us. It was for her. So she was just really stressed, and she was sure that it was this woman connecting to her and just really trying to like save her or help her or keep her safe. Like almost like, oh my gosh, you're going to have kids. Don't let anybody hurt you. I can't let anybody hurt you, like that. That was like the vibe. So when she got pregnant again, she actually told the woman, the ghost lady, like, you can't do that to me again. We can't do that again. She had a totally different pregnancy. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, when spirits try to get your attention, okay, when people on the other side try to get your attention, or spirit tries to get your attention, it can feel scary, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's negative, or at least the intention isn't negative. Like this lady, if you believe all this, in the home was just going through her own stuff and trying to heal on the other side, and trying to connect with this woman and try to protect her and befriend her and keep her safe. What happens is she was very sensitive to this woman's energy, and it was like draining her. It was like living with somebody who was constantly just like a lot of unhealed energy, like a little like toxic. But then they had the talk, and I guess it was fine. she loves living there and she does not mind this woman. Cause like I told you, if you have a good ghost, they become like roommates and they actually keep the house very safe. In a lot of ways, which I've heard over and over and over again, from different people. When we did our last Halloween special, by the way, I don't know if I mentioned this in the Halloween special, but we were at a school that used to be, it was like the first home in the town. It was like the oldest establishment in the town of Delray. Anyways, before it was a school, it was like abandoned for a while, and it was totally haunted by this coach guy. And they said that nobody stayed long. And there was like, cause it's Florida, there was kind of like a drug house going on there for a while. And like the owners of the place now are sure that the ghosts got them out of there quick. Nobody stayed real long, because that's the thing. Like if you have helpful inhabitants in a home, they can help you keep the vibe pretty cozy and push out energy that does not belong there. And you can even tell them too. If you feel like you have somebody in your home that's a little ghost, you can be like, hey, keep out the bad stuff and just see if people you don't like leave or don't stay too long when they visit. Okay. This podcast is for you and about you, and I am so glad you spent some time with us today.